like blackberries. God, this is all she got one.
All right, I call this special meeting of the M.S.A.D 49 School Board of Directors to order. Roll call, please.
Here. Here.
Camerly. Schumann.
Here.
Kate Flood.
Here.
T. Flood.
Yeah.
Knott.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Neubauer.
Here.
White.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want like stuff between two. You are.
All right, so we'll go to approval of the minutes. Vote to accept the minutes of the August 12, 2019 board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Boyden, second by Neubauer. It's a movement and second to accept the minutes of the August 12, 2019 board meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor? 7. Opposed? Abstained? 702. All right, so citizen input. This time, anybody that has any input, on the agenda items for tonight, as normal, please be respectful. Anything you have, any comments as far as the agenda, I think the agendas are up there. Some extra ones. I'll open up to anybody who has any comments now. Seeing none? All right, great. Old business, none. New business. So we'll, first discussion of nepotism policy, BBFB. Everybody has a copy of our, I handed out copies of the policy. Does everybody have one? Our current policy, BBFB, as you guys can see, is it shall be the policy of the board not to allow placement of spouses or next of kin or supervisory personnel in a situation where next of kin is in a position of direct supervision. So we just want to have a discussion tonight. There potentially could be a next of kin that's going to be nominated, that's been nominated in the past by way of our new superintendent, interim superintendent, that's going to be, potentially could be nominated. This was, there's a couple different options that we can do as far as how we address anything relative to the policy or not address policy, but just want to have a discussion tonight. Any concerns? We have spoke with council as far as our different options or any risks that the board or the district has. So by way of clarifying that is we don't break any laws by doing that as far as a nomination, whether it's co-curricular or teaching position. There is a statute which is referenced in our policy, which is Title 20A M.S.A. Section 1002, which references board members. So there's some details within that we have to comply with.
Sorry, I'm confused. So you're saying someone is going to be appointed, can you just like spell it out? Not appointed to the board.
Appointed to potentially a co-curricular position, being supervised by, not the superintendent, by being supervised by the athletic director, principals, and that nature. But want to have a discussion tonight as far as it meets our policy. And some other districts do it, have this policy relating to more than board members. So I want to make sure everybody's under the impression that there is nothing that's illegal that happens or anything like that. So
I think I get it, but so we're saying that there's no direct line from anyone in a supervisory position to someone who is a supporter.
correct.
Okay.
And our policy speaks to our board members
But,
specifically.
okay.
Yep. So do we have anything else about that? I guess it's,
No, it's just that, you know, as the board is aware, there are family members employed by the school district, and this is potentially a person who has served in this position close to closing, and just to make sure that everyone's understanding, and that the district can expect of me to excuse myself from any situation that would appear to be a conflict. This is not, any of these individuals are not personnel that I supervise directly, but some are here and one is potentially returning, and couldn't have gone ahead with perhaps the last superintendent's tenure, but just being clear that it was so close to the close of that the board has an opportunity to hear that if there were some concerns expressed. And again, having a thoughtful plan and getting ahead of a situation and being clear with the board what you can expect of me and should expect of me ethically.
Yeah, and speaking of that, there is some language that if the board would like, I can work with council over the next few weeks that we can propose to the board just to put in policy, and the board doesn't have to do that. We can recognize the fact, like Ms. Harrison just said, is she, can excuse herself. There is, contracts and co-curricular contracts that get signed by the superintendent, so there's a language that we can put in there as far as somebody else having a second party on that signing and
Their teaching
doing those.
contracts
Yeah.
and others.
Yes, ma'am.
I would do that in the contract. Furthermore, I would edit this because it's not clear. When you read the statute, we don't say that this talks about board members. And so this policy is not clear and needs to be clear to reflect the legal reference of MSRA section 1002, which says that a member of a school board, right, so they're talking about us
Right.
directly overseeing somebody. And that's not clear here, because it just says, it shall not be the policy of the board to not allow the placement of spouses or next of kin. It doesn't, do you understand? Policy of the board is the policy of the institution. It doesn't say board members, so we need to change.
We would
Our-
agree with
Yes.
that. That's-
Yes,
right,
so
it is-
I would
yeah.
make two recommendations. One is that this goes to policy immediately, and we get the right language in here. And then additionally, that the contract be reflected, setting up the right types of hierarchical situations in order to avoid conflict of interest. And
So- Sorry.
Just make sure to raise your hand, yep.
If I could just make the recommendation, instead of putting it to policy and waiting, because policy isn't meeting again until September,
Okay.
Sean's recommendation of putting it to legal and having council help us clean this up would expedite that.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I said, that's why we're discussing it tonight. I don't think it's anything, as long as the board is aware, we're in agreement that it's nothing that's a complete emergency, but it's
Right.
something that we can work through the next few weeks. Yep.
Yeah, because it's terrible language in a situation. That should never be written in it.
And certainly, I mean, you can look at our policies outside, there's been an evolution, and situations have, and some of you have been on the board long enough to maybe recall some of those situations where this policy has been, which is it's much. Yeah, so,
Anything else on that, then we'll work that avenue and move forward the contracts as we typically do, but we'll work through that.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, can you send the language of what's gonna go into the contract, so we see that?
Yeah, well, likely for the next agenda, we would attach that as a,
Okay,
yeah, we
great.
would attach it
Good.
as a,
Okay.
as long as we have it in time to send the agenda out, we would attach it with, yeah. Be it if it does go in, I'm sorry, for the contract.
Yes,
Well, right now, I think we'd just move forward with the contracts as is, as the board understands, that's the expectation, as far as the, superintendent would.
Supervision would
Right,
become
it's not a direct supervision
the athletic
method.
director and the high school principal.
The positions don't exist in a direct line now.
no, I get what we're saying, it'd be just nice to put an addendum or a rider on the contract.
Yeah, I think we can at least work on the language, and if you want to hold off on, I don't know as though we'll have the language as far as before we need to sign the contract, over this contract, so. But those appointments will be at the next meeting, so, yeah. But as long as the board is in the agreement that that's what we would, that's the understanding right now.
Well, yeah, I'd like to at least get the language and it would be clear in the thing that this will be, there'll be an addendum for the next meeting. So before we do that.
To the policy?
Well, that they'll change the policy, but then the contract that the person is going to sign, right, that,
For right now, this involves this, but there'll be
Yeah, I don't know as though,
others in the future, yeah.
I can't say specifically there's gonna be a verbiage in the, depending on what the policy, it may just be a two-person sign-off, or there could be, an understanding based on policy. The person, one of the superintendent signs it, but there's a policy that says that this would happen in the event. It's probably not explained exactly well, but.
no, I get what you're saying. I'm just, I think if we go back and ask legal counsel what is the best way to handle that, because often in addition, we can have a policy, but there can be a
Right.
clear addendum / rider onto the contract that person is signing that makes it clear
Yeah,
about that this is the hierarchical nature based upon, whatever kind of process would need to happen for complaint, for discipline, for promotion, whatever that may be.
correct. Yeah, I will go back and work with them if they think that that's what needs to be included
Yes.
in the contract. By way of processing that, I guess, I don't know by way of timing that will work for us, but, I don't know.
Well,
as
it's
though-
what we should do to protect the district.
Yeah.
And so that should be our first thing,
Yeah.
and that's what we should do to protect the district.
Okay, so we'll just hold off on signing having the
Yeah,
contract
let's
till the
just do
next,
that.
till the next meeting.
Yep.
Yep, that's fine. Yep. Okay. Anything else on that one? So the next one is discussion of bylaws. We had a workshop last week, I guess it was, and I handed out the draft based on kind of the edits that we had. So just going down through this, we had talked about, by way of a workshop, most people wanted a couple meetings rather than one meeting a month. So the first line, we added first and third Thursday of each month, and then went on, kept the same verbiage all the way down through. Not voting on this tonight, this is just a first cut, second cut, I guess, if you will, and then the next meeting, I think we would vote on it. Just want to talk about any more edits or discussion we would have with this. So everything else stayed the same, specials stayed the same. I don't see much change through there. Second page, nothing changed through here. Right, yeah, we do have an edit. I just want to go through what we, anything that I changed, so far all the way down through, then we get to standing committees. We had spoken about, some people had interest in the 2 meetings per month with retaining the same standing committees as they were. So all meetings, about 3/4 of the way down, the 3 standing committees of finance, facilities, policy, planning, and educational programs. All meetings should be open to the public and cross out the first Thursday, as we would be meeting for a board meeting first Thursday. And initial cut on the language is a minimum of 1 time each month. Meetings may be canceled by the concurrence of the chair and superintendent with public notice. Didn't change the last sentence. So that was changed just to meet so that we would make sure we would meet 1 time per month. And then if we couldn't, some reason we couldn't, similar to a board meeting, there'd be an opportunity to cancel that meeting by way of public notice as a public meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think concurrence is the right word to be. I think you just say meetings may be canceled by the chair and superintendent with public notice. I don't think you need that. Also, if I can just make some changes,
I basically used.
I'll draft on.
Yeah. Not to
Month
interrupt.
doesn't need to be capitalized. There's some things in here where I'm like, fix that, please. I'll make some edits and just give it to you.
Yeah, what I did was I copied the verbiage from the second sentence of the first paragraph with the concurrence of the chair and the superintendent with public notice. So that's where I got that from. I guess we can take a look at what somebody wants to make. Then each standing committee shall elect a board member as chair, and then I think it was just redundant as far as each committee shall elect a chair, so I deleted that. And I don't think we did anything else, did we? That's all. Yeah, that's the officers.
Yeah,
pieces. Yep.
Under the officer section, section 5, the first sentence, it currently reads, "The chairman of the board will have a 4-year term for 2018-19, and then for 2019-2020 forward, the chair will have a maximum 3-year consecutive terms." I would suggest that we wordsmith that a little bit, that the chair of the board can serve a maximum of so many 1-year terms, because we don't elect a chair for a 3-year term. We have allowed within the bylaws for this past year a maximum of 4 1-year terms, and going forward this would allow a maximum of 3 1-year terms. I just think that
Yep.
clarifies
We did-
that a little bit.
Yeah, we had the language from the last time, that's basically
Yeah.
one sentence, so I probably just put that, I can put that back in, and then maybe clarify as 1-year term.
Yeah.
Yep, 1-year terms. So the, something to think about, the standing committees, I think we just had a workshop now, about how the structure would be. This is the language, I think it would fit with the, as far as the bylaws, and then the committees and the board can kind of figure out whether we're meeting at 6 PM or meeting on a set day. I know sometimes last year it was, the set day was work for staff, I mean, I think everybody probably, yeah, so you knew exactly what day you had to be there, and you could put it in your calendar every month. If you did a 6 PM, you pretty much know, as we have a calendar that I passed out, so that would be helpful too. My first thought was, I don't know about the whole switching days month to month thing. That might not be the best thing, but that's just my thought.
You may have lost me like 8 paragraphs ago, but can you go back for a second, because I'm lost. Page 2, it says each committee shall elect a chair, and that's crossed out. What, so,
Just last sentence, the
The
last
last
sentence.
sentence of the paragraph.
okay, so you just moved it.
Well, actually, it was redundant.
It was in both
We
places.
thought-
Okay, all right, I just
Yeah.
was lost for a second. Okay, so now I understand. I am for a set day. I am not for them to be at the same time. That's what I'm not. I would like, it can be a set day for each group, that's okay, I don't mind that. However, I think that they should be different times so that there are people that can get to all of them, or board members choose to be on more than one. That's how it always was, that they could choose to be on more than one committee previous to last year. That's how it always was, so.
So maybe we put a sentence, I know it said, all board members notified of all committees, maybe we put a sentence in saying, committees can't be on the same, shall not be on the same day.
Yeah, so like they're not, they could have one at 5 and one at
Same
6 or
time.
something.
Oh.
They're
Wouldn't
not at the
currently,
same
yep,
time, so
right.
that,
Right, yeah. Okay. Yep. Could
Also,
be same day then.
yeah, they could be
Yeah.
the same day.
It's not the same time.
Is it just me, but the order in section 5 is disorderly? So, it has a finance facility committee shall be elected, but that doesn't get talked about until the 3 standing committees are. All board members will be notified of committee meetings, like, they're just not in the right order. And so I don't know if we need to, if you can
Yeah, I can
reorder
just
them,
move it.
Sean,
Yeah, yep.
that would be appropriate, because they're all jumbled, and for someone like me that
This goes to the top.
it causes me anxiety.
Yep.
It's all messy. So, yes, that would be great, so if they actually made sense and flowed in that way.
So the set day was the first Thursday last year. So, okay, so it would be on a set day, and don't know exactly what set day that would be.
Well,
What?
couldn't you do the first Thursday be one and the third Thursday be another, if you're only gonna meet once a month anyway, and then it would just be one more group that had to
Right.
choose an alternate night?
So 6 PM for 2 of them, and then an alternate for the other one. Yep. That was
I feel
ones that
like
we-
that's kind of easy for people to get to,
Or 5 o'clock, I think someone just mentioned that, so
1 or 5.
this is a good forum, whether people are participating or not, the public is free in a predictable way to attend.
Yeah, my only fear with 5 o'clock is actually 6 o'clock is a little bit of a struggle to get here on time.
6:30 would be better.
5 o'clock would really be pushing it for me, and maybe I just wouldn't be able to be on the committee that meets at 5 o'clock.
Right,
But-
well, and then the opposite is true for me, is that I thought is, I have to pay a babysitter $20 every time I come here, and, you know, I'm tapping out pretty much all my family members already, so I just, you know, having another committee. child
6
is
PM
hard.
before though is not
This
too
is
bad.
fine, yeah, if I can get them all in one night, that's great, but it's having to do another night,
We'll just
gets really.
Yeah,
figure out
we'll
in a
see.
rotation
Yeah.
or whatever, because I think this,
I'd be down with
Well,
that.
and you could still stick with a Thursday, because you still have the second and fourth Thursday, that you could put at 6 o'clock. I mean, they could meet all at 6, it would be the first, second, and third Thursday, or however you do it, but they could all be Thursday at 6.
And speaking of the day, I know we've had some meetings on Mondays, there's been talk about Monday being okay. Are we sticking with Thursday for board meetings and all that, or is that what everybody's thinking? Or I can, something to think about,
Does one work better for people, and I don't.
My thought is, I mean, we could all sit around and say Mondays are better for us, but we all rotate off the board. My opinion would be, we have history of having our meetings
Yes,
on Thursdays.
exactly.
People are used to it being on Thursday.
Yep,
I would advocate that we stick with it.
I agree.
That's what I was gonna say, so,
Yeah.
thanks, Jen.
it might be something that we, if we want to change, would have to, throughout the year, have a discussion about whether people want to change or whatever. I just thought by way of priority, you know, the district's a priority, we make it a point that, you know, I don't want to say that we're meeting on Thursday was not a priority, but it's kind of spelling out that, you know, we want to do it. It's important for us to be here at the beginning of the week, and then we can do some work throughout the week, but there's also, you know, I think there's sometimes there's an advantage to getting things done the beginning of the week by way of
Before
saying,
we're
you know,
exhausted, is that what you're saying?
I don't want to say exhausted, but, you know, it's.
Before
it's-
Thursday comes and we're like,
some ways
want to
it's making a
binge on
statement
something?
that, you know, hey, you are my priority and we want to do this the first day of the week. And I don't think it's a message that we're doing it Thursday where it's not a priority. It's just, I think it's a way of, I think it's tough to jump to that today. So that's why I just want to mention it and say maybe something we can talk about, like you said, throughout the year, or mention it, and it might be something that you could look at. We had talked about doing like a hybrid, but that might get a little bit confusing, so.
A day of rest and then a day of toil?
My only other thought on that would be, when I have, like if I'm putting together the fact sheet or trying to find out some information, the time I have to do that is probably the weekend. So for me, it's a little bit easier to have the meeting on Thursday, and then, you know, Saturday and Sunday, I'm working on spreadsheets and putting together the fact sheet and doing that.
I
If
agree.
we have the meeting on Monday, then it's 5 days before I'm gonna circle back to working on that stuff. But again, that I think is very individual.
Yeah, it might fit for some, might fit for some,
Yeah.
fit for some, but might not for others.
I think the only thing that would make me consider a Monday would be how many school events were held on a Thursday that made it hard for people to come versus how many are held on a Monday. Because if we wanted to increase participation and there were less school events on a Monday than there are on a Thursday, voila.
It's probably a potential to put on the agenda throughout the year, and so it comments, people get to comment on it through citizen input. Yep.
There's a ton of Monday holidays too, that's the
Yeah,
other.
that would.
Oh, right, good point.
Martin Luther
Yeah.
King Columbus Day, there's a lot of Mondays that, or they,
Right. And our bylaws say we meet the preceding day, which would be Sunday, which would probably also have to be amended in the bylaws because we don't meet on Sunday.
I know some
and a
districts
lot of
meet the day
school
after,
days that
so
are
they meet on
off are
Mondays.
Yeah.
Like they, Mondays or Fridays, cause they abut a weekend.
Yeah.
Some districts meet the day after, so it
Yeah.
says they meet on Mondays, they meet the day, if
Yeah.
this is holiday, they meet the
Yep.
day after, so. Okay,
Just, if we're, I had another question about the bylaws, if that
Yeah, so I guess go ahead, yeah, I'm still,
So-
I got a couple other things. so,
Okay,
yeah.
so Robert's Rules of Order shall govern the proceedings. Be nice to clarify if we're using the simplified version or the not simplified. I'm totally serious
Yes.
about this.
No.
And also, we make a statement, except that the presiding officer's decision shall resolve any disputed question or procedure. When I read that, we don't say then how it, are we meaning in that case that the presiding officer's decision shall resolve, or are we saying that they don't? Do you understand what I'm saying? And so the language isn't clear, because if we're saying that they don't, and it's the full board that decides, then we need to put that into,
So, except that can go away?
well, I think that we need to go back and understand the intent of that. So typically, in the parliamentary style, we don't follow strict Robert's rules, and we never have. So, it's sort of the question in this one, right? Like, I don't know, I think we should have a separate discussion about that with a little more, work behind it to understand, you know, the parts of Robert rules that we're gonna stick to, you know, if that makes sense, right? Because we're not, it's unusual that we would ever use some things. I can think of only one or two parliamentary moves that I've ever done here, and that was under the greatest duress. So, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've read a lot of it, and I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's certainly value in it, you know, I try to use it, raise your hand, you know, speak to me, speak twice on certain discussions. I think there's a lot of things that I think we've used in the last few months, but I say a lot, some. But there is a lot more to it, I think, and that's not as a
Right,
fit.
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
that we don't strictly,
Yeah.
and the speak twice, the reason that you have, that in Robert's rules, you have the speak twice, it's when you have 85 parliamentarians.
Mhm.
We don't have 85 parliamentarians, so if we want to have full discussion, that's the only reason to have a speak twice, actually.
Well, I will say, there isn't the only reason.
I know,
mean,
but that is the main reason that
You
it was
really want
there.
somebody to collect their thoughts rather than just, you know,
No, I get
banter
it,
back and forth.
but we don't then cede, the other part of the speak twice is that then you can cede your time. I could say, I relinquish my time for Jeff Neubauer to continue on filibustering. Like, we don't run it that way. And so I do think for moving that to a different discussion would help us. I do think for, you know, addressing the chair, raising her hand, these are all good things. I'm not against that. I just think we should, like, be careful about over instating that and understanding which
Okay.
ones, like, are we, because we're not strict parliamentarians here. If we were, we'd be like, hey, pounding the table, we could go British style.
Okay. So I also handed out the calendar based on the workshop, so that kind of goes along with the bylaws. We had mentioned two meetings a month, starting September. So this person created this up. I guess the only exception to this is the first paragraph does say the second being December, we do not meet. So if we wanted to keep that verbiage in there, we wouldn't meet 12/19. That would only be one meeting in December. So what we can do is, my thought was we would take that out, 12/19, and then if we needed a meeting, we'd just call a special meeting.
Yeah.
I think the board could probably,
That's good.
does that sound right? So that way it matches the bylaws? February 20th, school vacation, so this kind of outlines what the calendar is. And again, this would,
Yes.
we'd vote on this later on with the bylaws, so. And also the calendar, last year, we put the finance and facilities meetings in here, so maybe after we vote on this, the board could, you know, migrate that in there and say it's gonna be this day, finance facilities, you know, whatever committee's meeting on the first Monday, second Monday, you know, something like that, so.
Yep.
Just a thought. But I didn't put it in there for a reason that we didn't decide on the committees, that's why it's on there, so. Anything really else, so I'll just modify this as far as the, oh, yes, ma'am.
So are we going to put in the committees today for all three committees?
Put in what?
The finance and then the education
Vote on it?
policy, put them all in at their times, or give them all times today?
Well, we can do that. I guess it doesn't really,
'Cause that's stressing me, so I would like to do it.
yeah, I think we could do it, but we still need to vote on this package, you know,
Oh, so we
from
can't put it
everybody.
in part of the vote?
Yeah, I mean, and then we really should see who's on, you know, who's on them and things like that, so. Step one is figuring out if this is okay, and we're getting to the next step. Yep.
When would we, what meeting do we vote on for committees again?
September
I'm sorry.
5th.
September
Yep.
5th, okay. Thank you.
So I would modify this, and then we'd look at that September 5th, vote on the committees or whatever, and then decide Monday, your Thursday, first Monday, first Thursday, and second and third Thursday, or
Okay.
however else we want to decide on it. Yep.
I just thought this as well, is that, I don't know if I can't possibly be the only one this is an issue for, but is that I have to be on committees on days that have the meeting, so until I know what the committees'
Mhm.
days are, I don't know which committee I can be on,
Mhm.
so.
It sounds like consensus is there's only one meeting that's not going to be on Thursday. One committee that's not going to be on
I think it's
Thursday.
Right, but that's the
Right.
thing, is that I can't.
So it
And
might be
I
able
think
to,
I need to know which
education,
one.
and I
I'm
believe,
suggesting education.
we might be
Yeah,
able to tailor
because I
your
think
committee
we're
to
gonna-
one of those Thursdays.
Okay.
Sure. Yep.
Okay,
That should
that's
be,
just,
I
I
would think.
didn't,
I agree.
I need to make that decision.
Yeah, I think.
And then we may have to modify as the year goes on, but we'll try to keep the bylaws as not as tight, but as close as possible, so that way we're gonna meet, so.
Could maybe for the next meeting, if we have a consensus here, that, you know, the one that wouldn't meet regular on a Thursday would be education, maybe we can make up a little schedule there, so
Yeah.
people can see it for the next meeting, and then that could help guide the conversation.
Yeah, what we would do is put a block in here basically for
Okay.
that each Thursday, and then I think we just fill in the committee after that, if that's okay. Yeah, for every other Thursday. Yep.
And those are the standing committees, and there are other ad hocs,
Right.
if you will.
Exactly.
There's dropout prevention.
Right.
We need to convene a wellness committee, and those are necessarily, some we're only required to meet once a year, probably do it a little more frequently than that, but there'll be other chances to participate on other days.
Those are
That's,
usually after school, right?
Well, we usually schedule them to also accommodate the staff who are attending them, so it's not too far for the workday.
And the educational one could meet like 3 times every 3 weeks. I'm trying to think of like the,
What is that now?
how often is if it's alternating, then it's for you guys for the policy, then how many times
It'll be
how many-
once a month right
once a
now, the
month,
way you're trying to lay it out.
Okay.
On the first or the third, and
Right. Same.
or
Okay.
twice a month.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a committee that meets once a month, based on the discussion that happened at the last meeting. It's a different kind of work. So
I think
maybe that happens once a month.
Well, and I think the charge, because I'm just trying to figure out how many meetings that would be during the school year, which is like, what, 9? So if you only have 9 meetings, then we just need to understand what we're going to try to accomplish in that year. That's my only thing, from trying to understand the number of meetings so that you can kind of think backwards to that.
I think that in some instances, we're meeting at least once a month, because as we move towards the end of budget season,
Right,
the
budget
finance
will be
committee
more.
will likely meet more than once a
Right.
month. But as long as we are meeting a minimum of once a month, we're meeting our
Bylaw
bylaws.
requirement, yeah.
Yeah.
And we also talked about like the budget, we could have like a ad hoc type of scenario out of finance and facilities around that potentially. That'd be a subcommittee, yep.
Cool.
Anything else on that one? Great. All right, so the next one is discussion of the budget. I handed out a draft of the Q&A, frequently asked questions, question and answer sheet. So, yeah, I think there was another thing too, I guess that's all. So, Jenny has provided the fact sheet as well. I got, basically this is just a draft of some questions that I think, well, I've already been asked by some people throughout the year, throughout this process. And some other questions that we think might be valuable, as far as outlining, like, what is our, pre-K program, what type of program do we have, what is some of our cost per pupil, cost per student, how do we compare to other districts, things like that. That is some questions that I've had, that potentially we could hand out, in different areas, either at an open house, and we could also post electronically, hopefully on our website, likely after the budget meeting. So I think we can, hoping to finalize that this week or by Monday, I think. And we're in good shape. We got a lot of the questions answered. Tara's helped with some of the stuff, and so it's still a draft. I think there's still some things that I put on here, but does anybody, I guess my question is, if anybody has any specific questions that they've been asked a lot of, like from staff or from community or anybody, send me the question or whatever, and we can take a look at maybe incorporating the answers into these questions, or we can maybe even add the question to it. I'd like to keep it down to not 14 pages, but
Yeah, I did find an example of an FAQ from another district that was 14 or 15 pages long.
A lot of
Frequently
facts.
asked. It was extremely thorough, and I think it would be incredibly informative and educational for the board, maybe like for next year for the budget session. There was a lot of great information in it, but I think if I was a member of the public and I clicked on a frequently asked questions and I got a 15-page document, I would be completely overwhelmed.
yes, ma'am.
Can I just ask one question and maybe you can answer it and then we can just answer it to our people? Is that should this budget pass and there's $250,000 less than what towns have allotted, they've already sent out their budgets? So not their budgets, tax bills. What happens? 'Cause I
So
think
That's on each town though, that's not by us.
Oh, so it's kind of.
It's by
So
each
it's like
town.
your town and
Yeah.
that, 'cause that's what I've done.
So we sent out a letter, and Tara, correct me if I'm wrong, we sent letters out, the business office sent a letter out, we voted on
It's
those.
each town
And
decides.
they committed the tax amounts to the interim budget, and then whatever the adjustments is, we'll send information back to them, and they would just adjust as needed.
But it's not for us to decide, each town
each
decides.
town.
We don't dictate, like, for example, in Albion, they already sent out the tax bill, but they offset it based upon the money that they got in the previous year that we gave back, that didn't happen in other towns. Yes, and so, that was a great yay to them.
Yeah, so
Well
they-
done.
They've got that, and
Yeah.
they'll commit,
So
and
it's
then
up
if
to
any
each
adjustments are made, yep.
But, so we just email you, because there was, I think the one thing that maybe was missing on this was a mill increase. And also, that would be helpful.
Yeah, the mill increases, I could take a look at the question. The mill
Yeah.
increase is, it's different by town, it's
Yeah, no, it'd be
estimated.
but it'd be good to get an estimated,
Yeah.
just thing.
You can
and then-
label it estimated, sorry.
Yeah, the other thing is just language. I did like a couple languages pretty clear, with the exception of the salary increase in bargaining unit contracts, and people are like, what? So I would just put something that these salaries are they're not something that we cannot do. Right, like, I think that is the clearer thing to say, yes, we are mandated to give these salary, increases based upon agreements we have in place with teachers.
Okay.
Maybe just
Yeah.
simpler, like
I would say
negotiated contracts.
negotiated contracts or legally binding agreements, I think people get that. So they know it is legally binding, like, we have to do that, and if we don't,
I think, that question for me too was kind of a positive question. and a positive answer, because we are giving increases.
No,
so.
no, it
Yeah.
is, I understand,
I get what
but
you-
you get what I'm
I get
saying,
what
like,
you're saying, but I'm gonna keep the answer positive, I can tell you that, because I wanna make sure people are.
well, that is
understand.
policy,
I know.
positive, saying
I'm
we're
saying-
honoring our agreements.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
Um,
I just think we need to keep the language
Yeah,
accessible.
I can look at it, sure. Yep.
Something that has been asked of me, this is kind of easy. I laugh because I can't stand robocalls, and now I'm gonna ask again, this is the second one this week. What about a robocall for the budget meeting before? Because a lot of parents just don't understand. They just don't understand that they're invited to come into this meeting, they're invited to listen, and it's just, they've not done it. They're invited to ask questions. And I know it's a little late, but I would rather have them ask them than vote no and not say, oh, I didn't understand.
Right.
For the 29th.
I mean, I'm never an advocate of those question robocalls, but I feel like this could be important.
Yeah, it is for the parents and the
Yeah,
taxpayers. so.
and for parents to feel like we did invite them to come at least.
And also, I might add,
Yeah.
when we settle on with the Q&A, it looks like our intention, and we spoke with our administrators this morning about how we can distribute that, and our goal is to share it with families during open house. We can make it available, and we're going to add more to some other possibilities,
Yeah.
and then it's available online.
If we,
Yeah.
would like to get it done by Monday, and we could potentially share it.
We'll have those times.
There was some, what's that?
We'll have those times
Yeah.
announced.
Put the times of to vote on September 12th. We talked about the mailing, which is 3,600. So we're thinking to possibly provide it at the open house, provide it electronically. And potentially anything else the board, there is a possibility we could provide it to students, as of the date, but, we'd have to print them out, whatnot, and that's kind of something we can talk through with the board and see if that's what you, it'd be before September 12th, because it would be a 1 or 2 page document. But definitely the open house, I think, is pretty reasonable, and I guess we can talk about it, see what people think. We'll have another meeting before the 12th as well, so it's the 5th. So if people want to think about that and see what.
I think you touched on what I was going to say, Mrs. Hurston, is that on the very top of this FAQ, I would put the dates, that August 29th, we're having a meeting in the junior high, and we're voting on the budget on September 12th. And I would put those dates, not even as an FAQ, but right
Prominently.
at the top.
Yes.
This is what this is about. Please attend.
We will take care of that. And we also, just on a side note, I did speak with Mrs. Janess on the way in about marching band on that night, and she thinks they can move the practice to another field that's lined. But if not, we have another plan in place to just prevent traffic from coming into that area if the marching band is there and moving. We'll ask the Fairfield PD to direct people, business parking lot, high school parking lot. There's parking all around, so,
Yep.
okay.
Just,
So right now, yep.
just as a last thing, I just go back to accessibility of the document for people that may not have known. So in the question, did the board reduce the budget after it failed to pass on July 2nd? I think we may want to change some of the wording, not to have the articles in the prompt, because I don't know that people understand them. So I would say something like a reduction of 115K was made by special ed teacher, and then in the end you could say Article 2. Because I think when you lead with that, it's just me, but I just think, again, we want to make it accessible to people,
Right.
and they don't know that. I mean, we do mail the budget book where it says Article 1, Article 2, but I think most people are like,
Yeah, well, some people don't,
yeah.
They haven't
but
seen
I-
the budget book since
Right,
April or
exactly,
whatever,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
Maybe I can just reword that, so that way,
Yeah, and then you could put like Article 2 in parentheses, so, you know, like, so that it's referencing the article, but they understand, like, we've combined this, we've done this is where it's gonna fall out, so.
All right,
Because there's a lot of good information in there.
so, yeah, then we have the
And maybe
fact sheet
also-
and then,
While you were talking about that, just clarify the electricity cost. I know that when it was quoted in the paper, it got I think there was some confusion about what Jenny had said, and that it led to comments in the paper about people who were confused about where we were getting those numbers.
Okay.
And
It did get clarified in the print version.
It did, okay, because in the online version, I think there was.
Yeah, people thought that we were overspending, not
Yeah,
underspending.
there was some
Yeah.
confusion.
yeah, I can try to reword that or
Oh,
something. Yep.
just kind of let people know.
Um, Yep, so next thing, we have the fact sheet. Yes, sir.
I just had one other thought. Immediately after the question on the bottom of the front page about did we reduce the budget, wouldn't it also be just?
Where is that? Sorry.
The bottom of the very first page.
Okay.
Did we reduce the budget?
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't it be helpful to also have a question there that says, did any of those impact
Programming?
programming?
Right, yeah.
I
that's-
had-
That's fine.
Okay.
Because I'm not seeing that anywhere.
The second
and that's-
question-
That's one of the huge
Yep.
wins in this.
The second question, I did mention, does the proposed budget include any changes to programming for students? So I may be able to rope that question into change from the second version to the third version. Yep.
And we, in the first question, we may want to point out that this is the lowest budget. You know,
Yeah.
we presented 3.
Yeah.
This is lower than the other budget we presented.
I was trying to keep it to one sentence,
I
but
know.
I'll
We
still
also
try
don't
to.
want it- We also don't want them to fail. I think that there's another lower one.
Yeah. I think it is important to note that there was no change in programming from the second budget to the third one.
Right.
And that's pretty important because typically a district would say, well, we have to cut 3 or 4 positions, you know,
Yeah.
and then
Right.
you're like, what positions and where are we gonna get that from? So, I think it is important. It was a lot of money, $250,000 and
Yeah.
not be able to cut position is
And I think it was
important.
really important that you mentioned that we, not only did we not cut, but we kept the new additions that we had put in
Committed, yeah.
committed, and that, so, you know, I think that.
And it costs us $10,000 every time we do this.
Yeah. The public really ought to.
No, but people don't know that.
Yeah, I know. The public really ought to know that because that was this is the third time.
All right, so, yeah, we'll see what we can do is update
Thank you,
some of
Sean,
that
for putting this
stuff.
together,
Yep.
and for hearing all our comments. I know it's like,
Sure.
it's a rough to have your stuff critiqued. You're doing a good job.
It's all right, yeah, well, I wanted to be as educational, as informative as possible, yeah, for sure, so everybody understands it, yeah, so. All right, yeah, so we got the fact sheet, we've talked about a letter that potentially could be a small letter that we'll put together, potentially not, just want to let everybody know. Distribution, we talked about that, at this point, we're gonna commit to having it hopefully done by Monday for the open houses. Monday evening, and then we'll work on the budget meeting later on next week. So we'll hopefully have some at that meeting too, and then we'll talk some more for the September 12th meeting. And then it'll be on the, hopefully we'll be able to put it on the website too. I think we'll be able to have a prominent place on the website, and we'll be in good shape with that. And so we'll move along then.
We can even maybe ask the towns to post it on their Facebook page.
Yep, okay. So we are gonna add one thing tonight. We had talked about the gentleman that's doing a taping, so we had a previous motion a few years ago about committing tapings to another source. So by way of clarifying that, I'd like to have a vote tonight and see where people's thoughts are as far as recording meetings. So I would entertain a motion to pay $125 per board meeting to Dan Chase Unlimited to record board meetings unless other means available utilizing our students.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Boyden, second by Ms. Kugelmeyer. And I'll entertain a motion to accept.
So,
Moved by Mr. Newbauer,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Flood. It's moved and seconded to accept the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 6, 8. All those opposed? Abstain? 01801. It's moved and seconded to vote to pay $125 per board meeting to Dan Chase Unlimited to board meetings unless other means available utilizing students. Any discussion? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Opposed? Abstain? Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay. All right. So the next one, there was 2 words in here, vote that the. I'm just gonna cross out that the, and I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna restart. Vote that the vote entitled, vote to call and approve the warrants for the budget meeting and the budget validation referendum and to authorize the notice of amounts adopted be approved in form presented at this meeting, and that a copy of said vote is included with the minutes of this meeting. Vote to call and approve the warrants, the budget meeting, and the budget validation referendum, and to authorize the notice of amounts adopted. That the warrant for the M.S.A.D Main School Administrative District Number 49, the district budget meeting presented to the meeting be approved, and that a district budget meeting be called for August 29, 2019 for the purpose of voting on the annual budget for the district for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. That the warrant and notice of election for the district budget validation referendum be presented to the meeting be approved, and that a district budget validation referendum be called for September 12th, 2019 for the purpose of approving the budget adopted at the district budget meeting for the 2019-2020 fiscal year, and considering whether to consider the budget validation referendum process, and that the form of notice of amounts adopted at the budget meeting presented to this meeting be approved, and that the superintendent of schools of the district be authorized and directed to complete said notice in accordance with the district budget meeting on August 29, 2019, and to cause copies of said notice as completed to be delivered to the municipal clerks of each municipality of the district for posting at the polling places for September 12th, 2019 district budget validation referendum, and that the board will sign 5 notice of amounts adopted, 5 warrants to call the budget meeting, and 12 warrants and notice of election calling the budget validation referendum. Authorize the Director of Business and Finance to make the required number of certified copies that are needed posting in the district towns.
So moved.
second.
Moved by Ms. Booton, seconded Mr. Newbauer, and I'll entertain a motion to accept as written.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Kugelmeyer,
Second.
seconded by Ms. Flood. It's moved and seconded to accept as written. I would entertain a motion to accept the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Booton, seconded by Mr. Newbauer. It's moved and seconded to accept the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9. All those opposed? 0. Then moved and seconded to accept the motion as written. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9. Opposed? 0. And it's moved and seconded to accept as written, the motion as written. All those in favor? You might think I'm doing this again, but technically, thank you. All those opposed? None. 0. 900. Passes. Thank you. Right. So committee reports, and I believe we have a superintendent's report.
Brief one? Yes. First of all, we met as an administrative team for the first time collectively, all the building principals and our directors. It's a pretty large group, but we talked just very generally about, most immediately, opening school. And students will be here very soon. As we mentioned in the last meeting, administrators have been very busy hiring and trying to fill all those positions and get personnel in place. We are going to have our new teacher orientation on the 22nd and 23rd, Thursday and Friday of this week. We're going to go through just required training and orient them to the school district and say our particular teacher eval system, among other things. On the 26th, that's Teacher Classroom Prep Day. That's something new, I think this year that comes before the district-wide in-service, but, and also the evening of the 26th, all our district schools will have open house, and that is something different than we've done in the past, and staff are looking forward to that. On the 27th, we will assemble, and we're still in development as far as agenda goes, but at least for our role collectively, we're going to meet with district teachers in the morning and have a very brief address around 8 probably, and I've asked Chairman Knox on behalf of the board to briefly address our faculty. And then we're going to go through introductions, which has been the tradition, so people can put eyes on our new staff and welcome them. And then staff are going to distribute to their various buildings, and principals will have developed the agendas for those meetings. So that's opening up our building. And I also wanted to mention, speaking of finance, an upcoming event, our audit is coming up the week of September 16th. And Craig Costello, and I don't know the name of his firm, will be working with Tara during that time, so it's a very busy time. Also, some good news as far as people working together to benefit students. We had a United Way come, Elizabeth Barron, who's the executive director of the Mid-Maine agency, and she delivered, I think, about 25 backpacks and school supplies to the office that are going to be distributed. But also, we've had the Bulldog Closet, and I know that Katrina has certainly, Ms. Dumont has worked hard with our staff, Katie Wood, who is our JMG teacher, and also Sarah Hebert, who is our, I think her role in part of this has been the advisor for National Honor Society. And that was a great effort over many, many hours to get all that together for families. We did send out a robocall, and I heard from many, but particularly Mr. Bowers. He said that it was very well received, and administration believes about 200 families were served by that. So it's a huge success and a lot of hard work, and thank you to everyone. Much appreciated. I think there's energy to just move into how we can work this for next year. So I'd also want to mention there was another service opportunity. I think maybe NHS had participated, and I know that the football team, they served at water tables at the Corporal Cole Memorial 5K. It happened Sunday morning, very early, I think, and Jenny was also there, but we had some students volunteer and participate in that, and I think feel very good about that experience, and we had some staff also there, coaches, but again, Katie Wood and I think Sarah Hebert were also part of that. So good all around, and a great service for a great cause. So thank you.
Any questions?
Yes.
Questions? Well, now I don't want to ask them on the heels of such a nice report, but how many teachers, how many positions do you think will not be filled at the start of school?
Well, various buildings are in various situations. In some buildings, we have teachers intact, and we're trying to settle with a few ed tech positions. I know that we have a couple of positions, say at the senior high. I think the junior high is pretty nearly all set. And looking around, I think we're in progress with hiring the last few teachers, particularly Clinton is one that comes to mind. So we're getting there, and I wouldn't say this is atypical. This is, in my observation, this is sometimes how it flows, and sometimes we have late resignations for, a very personal reason or an opportunity comes up, and then we work with it. But we're getting there. We may open with open school with an opening, but we're prepared to meet that need if that's the case. So we're in good shape, I think.
All council on that? Great. So we'll vote to go into executive session pursuant to 1 M.S.A. 405-6D to update the board regarding negotiations with educational technician 1 and 2s.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Boyden, seconded by Kumar. Moved and seconded to go into executive session pursuant to 1 M.S.A. 405-6D to update the board regarding negotiations with educational technician 1 and 2s. Any discussion? All's in favor? 9. All's opposed? 0. 802 to be in.
Sean, did everybody sign that wanted to sign?
Oh, yes.